Welcome back to another great episode of Dr. J Radio Live, broadcasting from La La Land. And of course, we are on 107.7 FM UPRN, which is in New Orleans, Louisiana, as well as Deprogrammed Radio, not to mention YouTube, where I encourage you all to be, especially since that is the only official chat I pay attention to. And also, remember, folks, that generosity makes a person happier. So please hit the subscribe button. Also, subscribe to us on Patreon, and also hit the like button as well as the bell button, which gives you notifications on YouTube. And super chats are always kind, and of course they help us running the machine. Now we have to do a very show amazing for you folks today. And if you recall, the other day we had Gordon Gianmoto talking about the Titanic actually not sinking, in fact it being the Olympic that was sunk and had the name switch. Today we're speaking to not only Gordon, but we're speaking to his wife Janet Stanley. She is the subject of today's show. Actually, her topics that we're going to be talking about, which we labeled the YouTube page as today, is alien babies. So without further ado, the person to do the introducing is her husband, as I mentioned, the one and only Gordon Gianmoto. Gordon, welcome back.
Oh, it's great to be back with you, Dr. J. I love your show, and Janet and I are really excited about tonight. And I just thought I'd start off with a short introduction to the Zetas, because I can explain that really well. And then I'm going to describe how we met Janet, which was with the help of aliens. And then I'm going to introduce her, and she's going to take it from there.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so Zetas are 100% human. They're from the constellation Zeta Reticuli, which you can only see from the southern hemisphere. And they were on many planets. They had a big civilization, and they all got angry with each other and destroyed their planet. But they had already achieved space travel. Now, every single civilization that I've come in contact with, Orion, Sirius, Andromeda, Pleiades, Lyra, Zetas, all of them have selfish people and unselfish people. So I like to call it the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Nice.
So they decided, in all their wisdom, which they later came to regret, they decided that, having sexual organs creates a big problem, because then people are jealous and this and that. And seeing as how we destroyed our planets, why don't we create a space traveling race using human DNA? They just modified themselves to make themselves short and telepathic, big, huge eyes, and no voice box, no mouth, no digestive system, and they paint chlorophyll on their body. Well, just think about you taking a trip into space. How are you going to bring all the food you're going to need? What if you're going for 20 years? What are you going to be eating at the end of 20 years? K-rations? So they decided.
How could you even have rations after 20 years? I mean, the
exactly.
amount of space you would need in a craft, the amount of mass it would take just for food and waste alone, that's decades.
So what they do is they grow algae and they paint it on their skin, and it's absorbed that way. Chlorophyll. You can survive entirely on chlorophyll without anything else, and you'll live to be 150. So anyway, they decided to also, with their DNA, not only cut out all sex organs and then clone themselves, they also decide to cut out all emotions, because a lot of emotions are, bad. Greed, anger. So they decided we'll be a lot better off if we're just telepathic, very unemotional. And so they were traveling through space. And then the Confederation of Worlds said, why don't you go check out Earth? They've got some interesting humans there. So they came and checked us out. And the whole time, every experience everybody had, they were very unemotional. It seemed like, are these people robots or what? But no, they're identical clones, but each body has a different soul in it. So that soul in one body might be interested more in music, and another one might be interested more in electronics. So, but because they're completely telepathic, they are in total communication. So what anyone knows, any one of the others can know. So this is not.
You're talking about a hive mind, basically.
No, I'm not. See, a hive has one queen, and everybody else is a peon and does what she's told. But These are all independently telepathic beings who are working together. Okay,
Okay, I see. So,
so
like you said, like a
so the
confederation almost.
well the
Equal amongst themselves, independent
okay
and
so
equal.
so they came to Earth, and of course the selfish Zetas made an immediate deal with the U.S. government, and that's not surprising. And the unselfish ones decided, well, they made a deal with the government, and we're going to just contact individuals. So they're studying humans, and they're going, wow, they have a lot of emotions, but when emotions are good, boy, they're really good and they're powerful. We made a mistake cutting this out of our lives. And then all of a sudden, their cloning started to fail, and they go, oh my God, what are we going to do? And then they go, well, we could search the earth and find all the most emotional and intelligent people, and we could have children with them who would have emotions, be sexual, be human, a little more sleek looking than the average human now, and then we could have a new race, and that is what the new race is, and that's what the janitors had these hybrid babies, and so they're human, and the Zetas are actually dying out, and they'll be replaced by all the hybrid children who are very emotional and sexual, and they're going to have to roll up their sleeves and garden and grow vegetables and stuff and whatever that we're all going to eat at that point. Who knows? So, but I wanted to say that people have different experiences about being taken up by the Zetas. For the Zetas, their mind is unified, and from they look at human beings, it's like their brain exploded. They've got all these different levels, and they're not in touch with each other. So if one person reacts with their subconscious and goes, "I know love hurts, so how are you going to hurt?" And then another person might react with their conscious and say, "You can't just come through the wall and take me up on a spaceship and examine me. That's not allowed. And if I could report you, I would. And I consider that this is an abduction against my will." And then the superconscious part of you says, "I know we're all brothers and sisters, children of the Creator, and how can I help you?" So when they deal with humans, they got to be really careful, because if they're in that conscious mind where they go, "This is illegal, you can't do this," then they've got to control them a little more so they don't hurt each other. But what they're doing is they found lots of emotional people. Now, Jan extremely emotional, and she's extremely intelligent. Now, when humans were created by a different extraterrestrial race, they left parts out. They didn't want you to be telepathic, so they atrophied the pineal gland, and they didn't want you to know you were an eternal soul. So there are a lot of defects to the present humans, and this hybrid race is going to have an IQ of 300, be 100% telepathic all the time, but yet still be able to speak with their voice and sing and talk. And they're going to live 400 years. And so that's really the Zetas that Janet's met. Now, we're about to have pole shift, and there's over 1,000 unselfish races have come to the Earth at this time, not just because of pole shift, but because there's going to be a graduation of people on Earth to the fourth dimension. Only the unselfish ones, not the selfish ones. So there's going to be a separation between selfish and unselfish after pole shift. So they've got 1,000 extraterrestrial races here to assist in the transformation. And they're telling people you have to learn to be empathetic and kind, live by the golden rule. They can't come in, fix something that's broken. They can't change anything physically. What they can do is inspire you. So
Well,
if
let me
there's
ask you real quick, Gordon. Did you say 1,000 different races or 1,000 different
races,
individuals?
right? The total number of individuals is 7 billion fourth dimensional extraterrestrials, all of them unselfish.
Wow, that's basically the
Yeah.
population of
Okay.
Earth.
Now, in contacting humans before this pole shift, what they're doing is they've divided into 40 working groups so they don't duplicate their efforts. Now, the group that took charge of North America is the Zetas. So if you have a contact in North America, undoubtedly it's with the Zetas. Now, why might you have a contact with a different group? Well, we're eternal souls. We've lived on different solar systems, so in different galaxies. So you may have made some great friends there. Now you've come to Earth and you're born with a veil where you don't remember any of your previous lifetimes, and but these people do. So they come in their saucers to meet with you because they remember what a great guy you are, what a great friend you were. So they still stay in contact. So you can have contact with Zetas, and that concerns being unselfish, the coming pole shift, and the transformation of dimensions. But if you have groups other contact you, then what they are doing is they're just like dropping in. Like if you had kids in the school, you might go by the school once in a while and see them in school. Well, Earth is a school, and these other races that you've associated with before, these other aliens, they come here to visit you. So with that being said, I had taught myself telepathy in 1968, and I kept trying all the time. And I'd go walk outside and look up at the stars, and I'd say, "I'm sure you can hear me. I haven't heard you yet, but keep trying, keep trying." And I would practice on being telepathic with people. Like if there was somebody driving really slow ahead of me, and there was no way for me to get past them, I would send them thoughts that they're hungry and thirsty. So the first convenience store they came to, they, without even knowing why, would just turn in to get some food and drink, and meanwhile I'd be not have them blocking my way.
It's almost
So
like the same way subliminal messages would work when in a television theater where they were not a television
well,
theater, but
almost, except that this is mind to mind. So you can practice this. I've been in groups where I think, well, that person has an itch behind their ear, and I just keep thinking the back of their ear itches like crazy, and I'll just watch as they put their finger up and start scratching behind their ear. So there's all kinds of ways to practice this, but this is how you can practice telepathy. So, but anyway, what happened was in 1988, I had a 150-foot disc come from the Pleiades and take me on board because I'm a reincarnated Pleiadian, and they wanted to tell me about the future. So I spent 4 hours consciously awake on a saucer with a human from another galaxy talking about the future on Earth. So after that, I was talking to a friend who's a really great psychic who can read the Akashic record. And she said, and this was in 88, and then I talked to her at the beginning of 89, and she said, you know, you've never had a partner on your wavelength. Why don't you ask the Space Brothers and Sisters to find you one? And I thought, that's great. I know exactly what I like. So I kept taking walks for a year. I didn't meet anybody, but I took a walk every night, and I'd look out at the stars when it was clear, of course. And I'd look out and I'd say, listen, I want to meet a woman who's 6 feet tall, has reddish blonde hair, blue eyes, is half Scottish, half Scandinavian, who's psychic, who sees UFOs, who loves cats, is artistic, has a great sense of humor, and also, I'm being pretty specific, aren't I?
very
So,
specific. I'm thinking law of attraction when you're saying this.
well, so, but, so anyway, a year later, I went out to lecture to two different UFO groups, and I met Janet, and I was really interested in her, and I gave her a brochure on UFOs, which she didn't read. She went home and started having UFO dreams. Then she called, and we talked, and we made our first date. It was in October of 1990. The trees were turning. It was beautiful. We climbed Acadia Mountain together for 3 hours, and we fell in love. And the next day, I thought to myself that night, I'm not driving an hour and a half each way to meet this girl. I'm to date this girl. I'm going to go get her to move in. Well, I had no idea on Mount Desert Island where she was, but I just sort of tuned in, and I eventually sort of ended up at this restaurant, and I walked in the door, and there she was having lunch with an older woman. So I sat down next to her, and when they gave me this look like, what are you doing? I said, get your things, you're moving in with me, and that was 29 years ago.
And she's been with you since.
Been with me since. And the thing is, I've had other psychics tell us we've been together in thousands of lifetimes. We've been husband and wife. Sometimes she's the wife, sometimes she's the husband. Husband and wife. We've even had children. At one lifetime, we even had our own flying saucer, and we could go to any dimension, to any galaxy, to any planet, and we'd just go look around. Because even today, we like to get in the car and just go see stuff that we've never seen before. So asked Janet. I said, "Do you remember where you parked the saucer?" And she said, "No, I don't." And I was like, "Damn." But
Yeah.
anyway, so we've been together in many different civilizations. Pleiades. We met in the Pleiades originally, and we both volunteered to come here together at this time to be here for this change in dimensions because we could speak to it directly, our own experiences with extraterrestrials. And so now in 29 years, we're completely different. I'm very technical. She's very otherworldly, and so what makes it work is that we found out that we have exactly the same interests, exactly, and we have exactly the same likes and dislikes, and we have exactly the same beliefs. So she and I can just sit together without any other people for days just talking and never notice that there was nobody else involved. So with all of that said, here's a girl who her whole life has been in contact with the Zetas. And this is Janet Louise Stanley, and we've been together for 29 years. You can understand why she didn't want to take the name Gianni Noto.
Yeah, and keep Stanley, and not to mention her famous relatives.
Yeah, well, the Stanley family is quite famous. So here's Janet.
I'm coming right over. Hello.
Janet,
Hello.
it's an absolutely pleasure to finally hear from you and to finally actually talk to you about this topic that I labeled the YouTube subject as alien babies. First of all, just tell us why we chose that topic today.
Well, I would say since I was 17 that I was starting to be part of the hybrid program and having the alien ETs. I would be pregnant for 6 weeks and I'd be taken up on a ship and they would take the baby and there have been times over the years I have been allowed to go up on the ships to meet my children.
Now, usually a lot of people or women who say this phenomenon or mention this phenomenon happening as them being taken after being pregnant and then all of a sudden their fetus being removed from them and them not having an abortion or a miscarriage or any other natural reason to believe that the baby's gone other than, psychologically thinking you were pregnant when you really weren't, but that's not possible with today's tests. But a lot of people also recall that that they also got pregnant without having sex. Did you have memories with that?
You don't have to have sex because they take you on board and it's in vitro fertilization.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was suggesting. A lot of women, would say they haven't had sex in 7 years. I'm just giving you an example of
Right.
one case, for instance, and all of a sudden she's pregnant. She doesn't know how she became pregnant, and then she recalls an abduction or a memory of being taken, and the fetus being taken. Now, why do some people call it abductions and other people call it contact?
Well, I don't. I feel I'm an experiencer. It doesn't put abductee makes you feel like you're taken against your will. It's a terrible thing. It's against the law, and it just puts a dark outlook on it. But experiencer is more like it because you're really glad you're going there with them.
And
And you're glad you help, and you do have children. You have their children, and you've seen them, and they look like me now. At first, they looked more alien, gray Zeta, but now they're looking more like me all the time.
that's what actually Dr. David Jacobs and other people who have been involved with people who have had abductions or contacts say that each I don't want to say level, but each time you have a hybrid and then a hybrid with another hybrid, it's going to get considerably more human looking if you keep matching with it. So I would think by this generation of having so many hybrids, say 60 years or even longer than that, maybe you can answer the question of how long this has been happening, but they've gone to looking from what we normally portray as the grays or other different extraterrestrials such as reptilians to becoming more like us. Which would you say was the closer race that they used to look like?
I'd say they started out looking more like the Zetas, the ETs with the big eyes, and just they had a few of my blonde hairs that would just pop out,
Mm-hmm.
wispy blonde hair, and they were very thin, and they have very thin legs and arms, and very and big
Now,
eyes.
when you went back, when was the latest contact you've had to see your children?
Well, I haven't seen. I think the last child I really got to meet. I remember there was a classroom full of my children and other people's children, and there was other people I knew there in the classroom. I'm taking a lot out of body to the ships, and they were all there. But all the children in the classes were looking much more like us. They were very intelligent, very telepathic, and very kind, loving children.
Exactly what Gordon was mentioning, something that they remove from themselves and are trying to bring back, which is emotions.
And sexuality.
Yes.
I feel I see the children on Earth because there's certain children that will look at you in the eye and they know that you're part of the hybrid program. They know, and they are too. And they know, they see that about you instantly. You could be in a big department store and they'll pick you right out.
Kind of like, because if you want to call it an antenna, other people call it your pineal gland, is sort of giving out messages and that they're receiving.
Yeah, and your aura, your light around you.
Interesting. I didn't think about that. And that also, if you talk about light, then that also brings in the vibration factor.
Right. And they're very loving. They'll look at you right in your eyes. And they can be, I've seen them up to teenage years.
I've heard somebody, at least one person, and I know other people adopted this term of Homo nueticus as the next generation. Is that what you've told or been heard? This is the name of?
No.
Yeah, that's what they say. Is some people would mention that Bob Lazar, when he was briefed on the 63 external corrections that we have undergone to become what we are today, we are undergoing a 64th external corrections that's going to bring back telepathy, and it's called Homo nueticus.
Or we're also the sixth generation. Sixth race. It's the sixth race.
What are the other five
it's
races?
The new race. It's the new race. All other five races are going to die out.
You talking about other five races that are here on Earth, or races visiting us?
Races here on Earth.
Now, Gordon mentioned earlier that they're here waiting for a polar shift. I saw a question in the chat from the beginning that was to ask you about Planet X or Nibiru. Can you tell us about that, and does that have anything to do with the pole shift?
Yes, that's what it is. And all I can say about it more Gordon's the real pro on that, but I've had so many end time dreams of the water just washing most areas away, and I've seen disasters, but I'm always a bystander when I watch all this.
Because you're watching from another, is it just because you're taking your mind there, right? You're not physically there in that dimension, is that right, the reason?
Right, and I'm seeing what's ahead of us. I'm seeing the weather, the changing, what's going to be happening, the disasters, like with, the earth changes and the earthquakes, and I see railroads, trains going off tracks. It's going to be a total nightmare.
Do you have a timeline when this is supposed to happen?
I think April, because I've had so many visions and dreams of ice.
You mean
melting.
April 2020?
Well, I guess 2022 at the earliest.
Wow, so that's pretty close in 3 years, because...
But don't you just feel it the way the Earth's behaving now with all this rain? All we have is rain, rain, rain. It's never been this...
Well, you're actually absolutely right, and especially here in Los Angeles, we've never had this much rain in at least 30 years. And moreover, the amount of rain, we've solved the drought issue, I'd say, within the first weeks. If you probably look at the record, I don't know if it's what the Farmer's Almanac, you would definitely be able to know that the amount of rain and the cold weather has somewhat stayed on, which is not normal. We would have been well into the 100 degrees a month ago had it been a year before, 10 years before. And I've also heard that on the East Coast, because of the hurricanes getting larger, they've had to create a sixth level. Level 5 hurricanes are no longer the standard. And we're talking about level 6 hurricanes going to take out the East, and they're trying to design structures to be able to sustain those forces.
I'll explain that on my
Yeah. Gordon wants to explain a lot of this on his next when he speaks with you on Planet X show if you'll have him, because he knows a lot about that. But we don't have as many hurricanes as you do on the West Coast, Pacific.
Interesting.
But we still have plenty in Florida.
One in the Atlantic every year.
There's one in the Atlantic every year, and there's how many?
80.
80 in the Pacific.
Since Planet X came in.
Planet X came in the solar system.
When did it come in the solar system?
December 2003. And there's plenty of pictures on the internet for you to see that it's here. Plenty. Taken by NASA.
Now, when you were taken, when you've had contact, Janet, did they tell you about this as well? I mean, aside from being shown on NASA photographs that Gordon mentioned?
Well, I think since I've dealt with ETs, I've become much more psychic. And I think because of that, I see what's to come. I see, the future.
And you mentioned weather changes, which were happening right now, earthquakes, and that's pretty much one scary mess that you're looking at. And you said you're seeing this as a passenger.
Right, and I am an earthquake sensitive. So we had an earthquake up here a few years ago under our house, and I picked it up 6 months before it actually came with my feet. My feet were burning. And I could actually hear the crystals in the granite separating.
Interesting.
The piezoelectric.
Well, I wish you would be able to do that for us here in California, because knock on wood, that's something that scares me.
My feet would never stop hurting.
I would imagine so, with them small ones happening on literally every day. If you look at a seismic meter, they're actually happening every single day. Minor ones, and it's just a matter of time before something bigger erupts, which is something that I always have feared, considering I lived through something that was only 6.7, and if I lived through that, which was nothing compared to, say, what a 9.1 or something of this magnitude is, I don't even want to know what the Japanese people experienced in 2011 at Fukushima, let alone with something bigger than that, maybe like the Sumatra quake in 2004. But nonetheless, this is what you're saying is going to happen?
Yeah, something big is happening. Gordon's he knows all about Planet X and all the...
Jenna knows a lot of things.
I know a lot of things. Yeah, I know a lot of things, but I'm on a more worldly thing, and I'm not good with all the technical facts about that stuff, but Gordon studied where he could tell you where the Planet X is and all about it. I mean, it's been coming around every 3,000 years.
Wow. Well, let's hear more about your experiences then. That's every 3,000 years, and that fits, I guess, that's something you could predict if you could survive that. But you said that during this pole shift, 5 of the 6 races are going to die off, and only the new race is going to survive this?
Right. Because we have defects, too, us humans. We're defective. We don't have... We're design defective.
What other features are going to come back to us, and what features are going to go away?
We're going to know we're eternal souls.
We're going to know we're eternal souls. We're going to have the pineal gland working.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be telepathic. I have almost seen what the new race will look like with very big foreheads, big heads, like for a big brain, very sleek looking.
Would you say like the Nordics, or because you're talking about big headed, if they're big foreheads for a bigger brain, then I'm thinking more of something that what a typical gray would look like.
Nope, they're hybriding with all the races on Earth. All 5 races.
So, aside from it being more taller and slender and having a bigger head for a bigger brain, what else? I mean, because one thing Gordon mentioned is living up to 400 years old and an IQ of 300.
Okay, Gordon doesn't think they're going to have big brains. Let me just clarify this. I have seen something of, I'm not sure if it's a future human, but I have seen, I don't know where I've seen this, but I'm a little, Gordon said that it's going to be proportional, but I'm saying just in my own, I meditate and I saw clearly maybe I saw one of the aliens, but it had a very sleek big head, but that might be one of the aliens, the 3,000 races that are out there.
Now, one thing Gordon also mentioned earlier that I wanted to ask you about is this confederation in space that made these spacefarers that came here. So, what does this confederation consist of?
All kinds.
Jellyfish, all kinds. Jellyfish. Worms.
You're talking about species that are here on Earth? I mean, you're talking about, evolved species, because when I hear worms, I'm thinking earthworms, literally.
Well, they can't. No. Why don't you, you come, Gordon's gonna, there's some subjects that are more in Gordon's field, and I'm letting him explain this one to you.
Okay, there's just 1,000 races out of millions in the whole universe, but they're the most unselfish, and they volunteered to get as many people to become unselfish as possible. So they're smoothing the transition, and they're all races. Now, on another planet, if a worm like about 3 feet tall and about 10 inches wide becomes telepathic, it can't build a spaceship. It doesn't have hands or legs. Can't mine metal, can't refine metal, can't do research or anything.
Well, that's what they say about, I'm not thinking of whales, but dolphins, right?
I'm not talking about sea creatures. I'm just talking about beings on other planets that have lived a really long time. They become telepathic, and they contacted telepathically other races. And they said, we want to come to Earth to be here for the transition. So they're up there in motherships in the solar system. And they're all there, 1,000 races, 7 billion fourth dimensional extraterrestrials that you can't see or feel.
Now, how can we contact them? You mentioned earlier telepathy.
Telepathy is the only way.
And Janet was saying that through telepathy or meditation that she saw a being that had looked like us but had obviously a bigger head for a bigger brain.
Right, but I'm telling you, the hybrid race, generally speaking, is going to replace the human race and look a lot like them, more like them than not. And they're just a little more sleek looking. That's what your first impression would be, sleek. But they have hands, legs, sex organs. They play music. They design things. They garden. They grow things. Very creative, and so they're going to live 400 years. And if you're unselfish, when you die, you'll be allowed to be reborn into a more advanced body where you can be part of that group. And if not, if you're selfish, you'll be born on a watery planet where you'll be a sea creature on the third dimension until you master the golden rule.
And the golden rule is?
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Absolutely, and that's one of the most unselfish thing you can live by.
Right, but I'm telling you, Janet has a lot of really interesting things to say, and you won't get to them if you keep asking her technical questions about Planet X. So
that's Gordon's.
Yeah, well, let's lead into some questions of those, Gordon.
Not for me. Just talk to Janet.
Yeah, this is my show tonight.
No, absolutely, Janet. I want to hear your experiences.
Yeah.
Started at age 4.
I started at age 4 to have UFO. I'm dealing with the ET since I was age 4. It started out where I always loved cats, and I had a black cat. And I was in my room, and I looked over, and my black cat shapeshifted, or something happened. It was all of a sudden it became an ET. Then it went back into the black cat again. So I knew then I was fascinated with ETs after that. Like it struck, it like woken me to the ETs, and I started telling everybody I was gonna get my spaceship, and I was gonna go take my animals and go back to my planet. And that was my dream since I was a child, and I would tell people what I was going to do when I got older. And people call me Janet the Planet, and my name is Janet, and it's like E.T. at the end, Janet. And I grew up in a fishing village on an island, and the fishermen would go rescue these boats that they saw sink into the ocean. Well, they'd get out there to the boat, and it would take off into the sky, and it was a UFO. So I grew up knowing that on an island, and this still happens. And then I was always fascinated. I had friends that would talk about UFOs. My mother and I saw one when I was 17. We were out walking at night. And then it's sort of like, that kind of like put it in the background with UFOs, and I was traveling around the world, and I was doing things, and I had a child of my own, and I was very psychic all along, though. And I had a home delivery with Eva Reich, Wilhelm Reich's daughter, and that was and I had an Indian guide in my room, a shaman in the room, and my father was part Native American, and he could do shamanic work. He could read the ocean without any instruments, and I can do that with the land. I can feel with his water, or I can feel the energy power spots on the earth. And we doused our own well, and I felt the earthquakes, and I talked to the animals. But anyway, so I've been doing that, and so when I was 17, and then I had a child, and then but I was still having these miscarriages, and I didn't know why. I go, what is this? Why am I doing this? The afterbirth, but no baby. So I didn't think much of it. I thought, well, maybe that's just what happens. Because I was really like very natural with nature, and I didn't run to a doctor every time I turned around. And I hiked and camped. I was very, close to the earth. And then it wasn't until I really met Gordon at age 37, I'm sorry. And I already had my tubes tied, because I decided this was a crazy world and I wasn't going to have any more. And then I met Gordon, and I still started getting pregnant and lactating, even though I was 99.9% of, couldn't have children anymore. What are you talking about, the dream? Oh, yeah, they would take me up to the ship when I was going to have the babies. And beforehand, they would, to impregnate me. Oh, I know. They would show me animals that would be over. I'd be on a table, and horses would be over, like long-necked horses would be looking over me. Or I would see other kind of animals, but it was like a screen memory, because they know I like animals and I'm not afraid of animals. So I had no fear of being with them and being up on the ship, because they were always showing me all these different types of animals. Then I'd miss my period, and 6 weeks later I have the baby. And after a while,
go up again, and
yeah, but after a while, I started seeing the children. They took me on board, and I had a ride with one of my daughters around the universe in her spaceship. So that was pretty fun. But I have been up on the ships, and I have been contacted in my dream state, and I've actually woke up and saw the ship the next day. And so I've been really, and they've told me that they're always around me. They'll always be there for me, and they let me know when I'm going to go see them. So we have quite a. It's
like they've said, we'll show you tomorrow.
Yeah, they'll tell me the date, like tomorrow, go out, you'll see us. But I feel like it's like beyond family. It's like beyond human relation. It's very unconditional love, very spiritual. The children are very spiritual. I feel it's been a blessing in my life to deal with the ETs. Just a total blessing.
And to help them, right? Especially if you're giving them
help
hybrids.
them, and they help us. They help us too.
Can you say help us? How they help us?
Well, eventually, like they come. I know people that have been saved in accidents. The ETs come before the ambulance and put those people back together before the ambulance even gets there. So the ETs are working with us.
They take you out before the accident.
And they can take you out before the accident and bring you back.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of ways they're already helping us out.
Now, what about some features that we have, like, we talked about giant earthquakes that would kill people. Are they meant to protect us in cases like that?
No, this is all natural Earth
changes. So
from Planet, but it's also from Planet X. Planet X is creating this every 3,600 years. This planet comes through, and this is a disaster from Planet X. But this time we're going to have a graduation of spiritual for the people who are unselfish. And a lot of people say, and I feel, the ETs are going to be there for some of us to take us off planet for survival. In 1982, somebody saw a list of the unselfish contactees with unselfish aliens and the unselfish Zetas, and I was on that list. They saw my name on it.
Almost 30 years ago. 27 years ago. Where was this list?
Only 12,000 people back then they had contacted.
They became too numerous.
But now they're too numerous and they don't keep track.
Right.
More than half the population has had contact.
But most people forget, right?
Well, some do. Some don't, though. There's a lot of people out there. You just start talking to them, and boy, they remember.
Conscious memory. That's absolutely right. Jim Sparks is a famous person who's written many books and lots of lectures, who's someone that actually remembers almost every bit of contact he's had.
Yeah, we met Dr. John Mack that wrote the book Passports to the Cosmos. Yes. He told me I was an ET. He said, you're an ET.
Interesting. John Mack, yeah, very famous guy.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's great. And then we met Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut. We spent a weekend with him in Rangeley, Maine, at a resort area, a small resort area, and spent days with him just talking about what we talk about.
Now, you mentioned, Janet, that the people who graduate are going to be taken off planet?
Yeah.
No,
even if you die.
It will allow you to be reborn on an unselfish fourth planet.
You can be reborn on an unselfish fourth-dimensional planet.
But that only depends on being unselfish, right?
Right. Well, you got to have a kind heart. I already do telepathy. I do that with people. I do it with animals. I see dead people. I see aliens.
Do so you see aliens consciously, or do you mean like subconsciously?
Yeah, I see them. Oh, yeah, they come through my wall. They take me places. They bounce on my bed. They're always around me. I can go 200 miles away, and they know where I'm at. They'll be right there.
Because of your pineal gland, I would assume, is why they're able to track you.
No, I think it's because they know me. They've known me since I was born, basically.
Wow. Now, so when was the last contact you've had?
Oh, let's see. I think a couple of years ago when they told me about if I asked them about Gordon if he got sick. And they said, we'll always be here for you. And tomorrow when you go out, you'll see us. And I did. I saw about 3 times. spherical red mothership. In pouring, the worst Christmas we ever had. It was pouring rain, sleet, no planes could fly, people couldn't drive, it was fog, and they were right out there, big as life.
Wow.
Just over the top of the hill. I could almost reach out and touch them. And I go, oh, thanks. You know, every time I deal with them, a lot of times it's in a dream state. They show themselves. Then I wake up and I go and see them.
Like, so they're inviting you, you could say.
Oh, yeah.
You've been up showing people you know and neighbors and friends and family around saucers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've had other family members and friends come with me on the ships.
Do they also remember it
They're
as
all
well?
out about. We're all up there together.
They don't remember.
And friends will tell me, they go, you and I were on a ship again last night, and you had such and such on for clothing.
So yeah, obviously they're remembering if that's the case, if they could telling you what you were doing the night before when they were with you out of body.
Right.
Now, the ones who are visiting us, you said they're making hybrids, but they look like what we typically call Leeds Greys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, you said you've seen some around us, but I'm not talking about the ones that we get to see through in the in another dimension. I'm talking about this plane right here. Have you actually seen them around, say, outside or anything like that?
Yeah, some of them are now third dimensional, and you can see them. You can almost feel them when you approach them, that they are not they are the new.
Unselfish Zetas can go between dimensions easily.
Yeah. The unselfish Zetas can go through through the different dimensions easily. But let me just tell you one thing while I was thinking. We went to a Wake Up Now conference where Gordon spoke out in New Mexico. And I spoke at a morning meeting with somebody that was doing people that have dealt with ET experiences. And there was lots of us in the room, and I was telling about my experiences and how I had no fear. Well, this girl later I met up with, maybe a day later, she said she'd been looking all over for me because she had heard me, her friend of hers had heard me in the group speaking. So she approached Gordon and I, and she was an ordinary looking woman, probably in her 30s, long brown hair, very pretty. And she said, sitting outside in the courtyard. Well, she found me first. I was standing, and then we sat down. Well, we were standing while I was watching her face, and she very gradually shapeshifted into a Zeta.
Wow.
And then she put her hands in front of her instantly. And I said, I saw that. I saw what you just did.
Yeah,
and she
looked
goes,
at her like, what's that?
yeah, and she goes,
that?
nobody's supposed to see this. My parents couldn't handle it. My husband couldn't handle it. She goes, I have to hide this. But nobody knows. But we saw it. We saw it. Plain as day. Right in front of us.
Can you talk a little bit more about what you said you've seen when you meditate with these beings that are more slender and have bigger heads?
Mm-hmm.
Praying mantis speak?
Well, yeah, and I've also seen praying mantis. But anyway, I just want to tell you, this is the story. Sometimes the ETs will I don't know what this is called, but they form on your wall, like on the wall of your house. So just all of a sudden you'll see a form, what is it? Face of them, and it will stay there. Well, this particular face stayed on my wall for years. And it was an ET, and it had a very big forehead and a very sleek head and very sleek face. And it was there for years. And I just felt that it was an ET, and I don't really know if it's a coming race or it's just one type of ET. I also see the Zeta heads around. They form into my wall. They'll just all of a sudden appear on the wall, and they'll stay there.
You look down and see a stone nose.
Or I always see things in nature I always find stones that look just like aliens' heads. and with the features or seashells or you
Now,
can they superimpose themselves onto nature. For me, I don't know if everybody else notices it, but I have a collection of this stuff that look like Zetas.
is it
I'll take
because of your connection to animals and nature?
yeah, and my sensitivity. I'm very psychic, and I'm very and I do telepathy. And I have dream time like the Aborigines, where I dream what's going to happen the next day.
You're dreaming the future, in other words.
No, I dream every day. All the time about who I'm going to meet up with the next day, who's got a certain illness. Anytime anybody dies in my life, they come right to the foot of my bed at the moment of death.
Wow.
If they at night, or they'll speak, and they'll stick around me for sometimes. My one sister that was like my mother stayed around me for years, always calling out my name. But it was very reassuring. My father died, and he was at the foot of my bed, and I was 300 miles away. But that was like a gift. That's a gift when they come to you in spirit afterwards to show you they're free.
Absolutely, and to show you that they're still going.
Exactly, and they're not in pain anymore, because a lot of people are, they die in pain.
That's true, very true. Most people don't die instantly. Most people have that process, that whether it be cancer or leukemia or pneumonia or anything. But you're absolutely right. When they're released, they're free of pain.
Exactly. And I usually see them surrounded in a huge white light, too. So that's sort of comforting. But I've had, like, blue spheres in my room when I know the aliens are around. They're bouncing around in my room. Like balls, blue, beautiful LED blue, but they're just like, just bouncing around. And then I hear, like, sometimes, like, bees buzzing, and that's a sign that the ETs are coming. Or ringing in my ear. One particular ear will start ringing. But they mostly let me know in the dream state when I'm going to see them.
I see something in the chat here. This is interesting. I wanted to say this to you. This is from Roberto Kales. It says, rumor is the Greys are dying, so they are making human hybrids. What do you say about that?
Right. Exactly right. Because the cloning doesn't work anymore, and they realize that we have the emotions, which is necessary, and we have the sexual organs to reproduce, which they couldn't do. Their cloning stopped. They made a mistake with that. So they made a mistake, and they were dying out, but they got people's permission, even if it was on a higher consciousness with these people, to be able to be part of the hybrid program.
So before you started making hybrids for them, did you have permission? You gave them permission to help?
You would have.
I would have. You don't always know you gave permission, but I would have, because I always loved ETs, the whole idea of flying saucers. And I like nature, and what's not to like about it?
That's true. That's true. Now, you also mentioned...
I only have one child of my own. I do have one child. My grandson loves UFOs. He's 7.
Did your child also have the same feelings about ETs and UFOs as your grandson?
Not so much. He doesn't deny, but he doesn't know what to think. He doesn't think a lot about it. He works for the state. He's big time analysis for the state, which I don't know how he began to do, but he's always been great with math. He's always sort of just practical. He's not otherworldly like I am. But his grandson is.
Now,
my grandson.
You also mentioned that when you were taken, they were showing you animals as screen memories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this proves that they can show you screen memories, whether it be on board ships or whether they're on here.
You want to come over here and talk?
No. I won't see anymore.
Yeah, they can. like some people see black dogs that go right through walls.
Like your black cat when you were young, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's limitless what they can do to make people comfortable or see things differently than what's really going on. But it's usually to make you comfortable. They don't want to the first time a ship came to me in June of 1991, I was dreaming I was on the ship talking to the ETs, and I told them I want to see them when I was awake, and I woke up and I went outside with Gordon. I woke Gordon up. But I was a little nervous because it was an energy like I'd never felt. Like, oh my God, what if they take me away? Because this was when I was wide awake and the ship was right there. I was alone outside. But it was still this feeling of, oh my God, are they going to take me away and nobody's going to know? So I woke Gordon up and he came out with me and then everything was fine. But that was my first feeling when I actually saw a UFO when I was wide awake.
But prior to that, you obviously had, you mentioned missing periods.
Many.
You had after pregnancy.
I've had one come for me like that, just for me.
Now, you said you saw classrooms of your children on board?
Yeah. They go to classes and they're really highly intelligent. And there was somebody else here that I knew. And he had some of his children must have been up there, but some of them had beautiful long blonde hair. Others had different color hairs, but they were gorgeous children and very intelligent. They loved each other. It wasn't like bullying going on.
There's a question for you in the chat, Janet. Let me ask it to you. This is from Lasha, and it says, has she, or you meaning you, ever asked them to leave a physical object behind for you, like as proof?
Well, no, really, I'm really caught up in the moment, and I'm not really thinking of a physical object.
You have the proof.
Yeah, it's in front of my eyes. It's the experience. It's what I live with every day. I've lived like this every day since I can remember of having them around, except that point in high school and some of the marriage and child I had. I think I was sort of protected from not seeing them then because back in a certain day around here, they lock you up if you talked about UFOs.
Well, yeah, 30 years ago, if you talked about them, you were literally chosen as, or labeled as being, or ridiculed. You were labeled as being sort of crazy.
Yeah, and I'm 65 now, so you can imagine if I was during high school and in those parts where I was around, I was in public a lot, and
Yeah, 50 years ago, I would imagine when you were 15, times were very different.
Exactly. I think they protected me until I met Gordon. And I had a place to live on a mountain, and I didn't have to worry about society so much. And I could really explore all this and see all this. And they felt it. I felt it was safe for me to be able to start really dealing with them and knowing more about my past and what all those things that happened. And I didn't really understand it so much. But I was very psychic at age 17. I knew when somebody was coming to visit. I could sit on something. I'll look and see what I'm sitting on. It's exactly what I'm thinking. I knew when people were going to come and visit. I knew when people were going to die. I don't know. I just turned very psychic at age 17.
I read about you too, Janet, is that when you went to training for, psychic, you were actually smarter than your teachers or showed more ability than them.
Yeah. And then when I went to shaman school, I was the one that saw that my shaman teacher had cancer.
Wow. Have you been able to heal anybody? Have you been able to help them in that way?
Well, I've done hands-on healing with people, and they say it's really good. But we live in sort of a remote place in Maine, and there's not a lot of those things going on like you would see in a city or something, or LA. Not a lot of these people get together, like-minded people. Maine is sort of like the Yankees, very practical thinking, and surviving the cold winters. But it's stretched out so much, and we don't really have what you call neighbors that close.
Yeah.
So this is something that we usually go out west. We go out to go to conferences and things like that. Or we have a lot of friends on the internet that we talk to, or radio shows. And then we did go to the International UFO Congress in Phoenix.
Phoenix, yeah. How often do you go there? You went this past year?
No, I'd like to go more often, but we don't have the funds. We don't have that much money because we're both on Social Security now. But people could always make donations if they'd like. We're at P.O. Box 51, like Area 51 in Ellsworth, Maine. And that's where the movie Taken, Steven Spielberg's movie, took place.
Taken, you mean the documentary series? Not the documentary, the series with Dakota Fanning, I believe it was. Taken?
Yeah, yes. It talks a lot about Ellsworth, Maine.
Yeah, that's a great series. I remember that when that premiered. I actually had to chase that down from 3 different Blockbuster videos when they had them at the time, just to get all 6 of the discs. I remember it was such a big series. I'd say one of Steven Spielberg's greatest. It's not really a movie. You can't really call it a series either, but maybe you could call it a limited series of, was it 10 shows, I believe, 20 hours?
Yeah. Oh, it was great, wasn't it?
10 hours.
Yeah.
10 hours.
And it showed 3 generations going back to what it appeared to be Roswell, all the way to the current Dakota Fanning, who happened to be the daughter of 2 hybrids.
Right. And they fictionalized Roswell and brought it up to present. But also, if you notice, a lot of it took place in Ellsworth, Maine. And we just happened to get the P.O. Box number 51 in Ellsworth, Maine, because it just came up the day we went in, and I thought it was sort of funny.
Yeah, and that's very iconic, too, Area 51 having your P.O. Box 51.
Yeah. So I do like letters and postcards from other people. I enjoy that. So if anybody wants to write or donate, they can do that. And this zip code is 04605. But we do get fan mail, and I really enjoy it.
Now, what are the typical questions people ask you?
Oh,
To help them.
to help them mostly. A lot of people want to be helped with pole shift. They want to know about their health.
Lawyer, they want me to get them out of jail.
They want to. We get some prisoners wanting to get out of jail because Gordon's a lawyer, so they're always thinking,
Yes, true. Doing their appeals.
Yeah, and then just a lot of women that have gone through having Zeta babies. Some of them write about that. Or they send us books or presents. Yeah, or money.
What would you say to some women who are maybe listening right now or watching on YouTube that are going through this process of having these hybrid children?
Well, I'd say they have something good to look forward to, and it's not lonely, it's not scary. You're helping another race, you're helping yourself, and they're very loving children, and they're yours, and you'll see them every once in a while.
There's something in the chat here for you, Janet, too. I'm going to read it to you. This is from Cosmic Gypsy. It says, how can we help each other prepare for pole shift?
Become unselfish and meditate, be kind and loving. Do unto others as you want done to yourself.
The golden rule, yes.
And live in forgiveness and not anger.
That's now earlier when Gordon was introducing you, he talked about the negative emotions and the positive emotions. Anger is what considered negative emotion, right?
Right.
Now, what about those people who have anger issues and have to go through anger management and can't seem to break through to forgiveness? What do you say to them?
Well, I would say therapy never hurts anybody. If you find a good therapist, to work with, you're that further ahead because you can work out a lot of those anger issues. Also, walking, meditating, helping others, and going forward, time heals all, but you don't have to live in that state of anger. Take care of yourself. Don't drink. Don't do a lot of hard drugs. Try to stay mellow. Realize that it's a big world out here. And be positive. And drinking really doesn't help anybody. That's when the bad spirits take over. If you go into a bar sometimes, you can just see some of these people are being possessed by these spirits from drinking because their aura becomes really thin and the spirits can just zip through.
That's why they labeled liquor spirits, actually, because of that.
Exactly, and it really is. It's real. But I can see the good and evil. I can see it. I see it being played out on Earth all the time. I can see the light. I see the darkness. I've seen real evil in play.
Tell them when you were on the fishing boat with your family and the wave was time.
Oh yeah, one thing I've seen with the end times is my whole family gets on my brother's lobster boat, and a big wave is coming, and we're all getting ready for pole shift, and we're on the boat, and all of a sudden, I said, let's all get in a circle and hold hands and pray. So all of a sudden, a light comes down from the sky, and I realize we're going to be okay because we've prayed for light and love and not get caught up in the anger or depression, to try to stick to light and love and to pray. I don't think there's anything wrong with prayer.
Yeah.
And
it's actually been proven to have
sometimes
effects.
that's all I've had was prayer. It's so bad. It's like, I just got to pray on this. What else can I do with it?
And through the Maharishi effect, whether it's been shown through meditate for peace or praying, other terms are prayer, it's actually been shown to be exponential when more people do it on the same time for the same subject.
Exactly, and same with being in psychic groups with psychics. It's amazing the energy in those psychic groups, and I go places where I know nobody in the psychic groups, and I see people that have passed over standing right behind them. But it's so much more energy in the room with all the psychics that it's uplifting more, just like people praying together or practicing meditation together.
Now, you mentioned once you saw a giant sphere that was huge and it was outside when the weather couldn't allow anything to drive or fly. What other different, not sizes, but I guess you could call shapes of ships have you seen?
The first one I saw in the dream state and then woke up was a beautiful saucer-shaped one.
Typical saucer, yeah.
Yeah, disc. Made no sound. It like sashayed in the sky like a canoe on water. And it was beautiful, and it stayed around us for at least 30 minutes.
Wow.
Right in our yard, right out on, right near the ocean, right up on a hilltop, and there it was. And just over our short maple tree, and it stayed right there, but it came to me when I begged them to see them, and I woke up and actually went out and saw them.
Now, did your other neighbors see this? Anybody ever mention that they seen the same thing?
Well, they have over a period of time. They had at different times. That island where I was living at the time was full of ET sightings.
Yeah, you also mentioned those boats that turned
into. People did see them over our house. Some people try to come over and tell us, but the ETs every time they come over, they make them forget why they were coming to our house. Until finally the next day, they finally got to come over and tell us.
Dezumbified here asks how many alien races are out there?
Millions and millions. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, that's exactly what Jordan mentioned earlier. Now, here's something I see about the Skinwalker
And there's
Ranch.
as many shapes and sizes of UFOs as there are, that you can imagine.
I've heard of 8 different size shapes, whether it be Saturn shapes, discs, triangles, cubes, rectangles, um,
Needle shapes,
cigar
spheres.
shapes, yeah, needle shapes.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a cigar shape with a friend of mine. Came right over our car. No, you weren't in that one. With the cigar. Oh, that was with Gordon and I. Yeah, the cigar shaped one. Yeah, came right over our car. And then with my girlfriend, I saw a triangle shaped one came over our car. And then 3 city buses that took up the whole sky. And we were so excited. We just wanted to have them land. We kept talking to them.
A Cosmic Gypsy writes, ask Janet what she knows about Lyrans.
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 They're the ones that started the Pleiades. They're the humans like us.
Interesting. And the Pleiades,
They
a lot
walk
of people
down the
mention they look
street
like us.
and you wouldn't know they were ETs.
Kind of like you mentioned when you'd be in a store, you talk about the new babies or the new generation that know you and you see that they are, and you have that mental connection that they are not from this earth.
Yeah. It's the way we look at each other in the eyes. We don't have to even say anything.
Can you describe what insides of crafts look like?
Yeah. So the one I was on that July 9th, 1991, that came to the house right over the tree that I was dreaming about and asked to see him. Inside that was it was oval shaped. Inside in the walls were, you couldn't just they were like an oval. You could stand up in the middle, but on the sides of them it was
Rounded.
low,
Interesting.
rounded and lower. And I'll tell you the story a little bit. Gordon and I were both up on the ship, and they had veils on their hoods on their faces, the ETs, robes with hoodies, and I really couldn't see their faces, and they were very tall, and they were all standing around Gordon because it was about the time in 91 I had met him in 90. And in 91, he was working on a book, and they were trying to tell him more about the book, and they were talking a lot about technical stuff, and I didn't really understand it. But I kept begging for them to see them when I was awake, because I really wanted to see the ship. And those are the praying mantis people. So when on the ship, there was somebody leaning against the rounded part of the ship, and they were laying there asleep. And I go, who is that? And so then I woke up and I went out and saw them, and then I woke up Gordon. And then the next day, Gordon went to talk to this Catholic congregational minister that we were friends with that likes UFOs. So Gordon ran over in the morning and talked to me. He goes, don't say anything. He goes, I'm going to tell you, I was up on a ship last night. The minister said that. But he didn't remember it. But he knows he was on a ship. And Gordon says, well, he goes, Janet woke up to her ship, and she dreamt you were asleep on that ship. And he proceeded to tell him that we woke up and saw it.
There's 2 questions in the chat for you. This is for Metalhead. Do you believe that these beings could be interdimensional?
They are fourth dimension, and they can come to third dimension and go back again to the fourth. That's why the ships wink out.
And here's a question from Jacob. Are you aware of the training program that Dr. David Jacobs speaks of, where hybrids that look exactly like humans come to live on Earth as a means to have them assimilate to our earthly ways?
Well, I read about him, and he seems to be more in the fear mode, which I don't feel like it's fear at all.
You want to be happy, don't ever read it.
I don't feel feel Dr. Jacobs' books are happy books when he says they come here to eat us. I don't think that's a happy thing because I don't feel that's or take over Earth. That's not what they're here for.
Well, if they wanted to take over, I think they could have had this piece of real estate called Earth a long time ago. It'd be so easy for them to wipe us out.
They annihilated us a long time ago too.
Now, let me ask you this: is how old is their civilization on this from Zeta Reticula?
Millions of years old.
I mean, older than Earth or younger than Earth? If we're 4.5 billion years ago, approximately.
Earth is 4 billion years old, and they're millions of years old.
So a lot younger than us, actually.
No, we started.
We started 400,000 years ago by the Anunnaki. People from Planet X seeded us here or started us here for slaves, as slaves.
For gold, right? For this atmosphere?
Yes. That's why we're defective. That's why a lot of people's pineal glands aren't working. They intended that. They didn't. Yeah, they want to be God. They wanted to be in charge of us. And they made us defective. And that's what the Zetas are fixing with us. With the new race, the new model.
The new model of us, you mean?
Yeah, we'll have open contact. We'll live hundreds of years. We'll have telepathic.
Have
open contact with all races, unselfish races.
I'm seeing here, this is from Rockstar, mentions that they gave primates thumbs. What do you say about that?
Primate what?
Thumbs. They gave them thumbs.
No, primate. No, there is. Evolution takes forever.
Evolution takes forever.
But
the Anunnaki sped it up when they came here. The evolution.
Some people, for instance, what Bob Lazar was briefed about when he worked at S4 in Area 51, said that at least one race was visiting us for over 10,000 years, and that we were undergoing 63 external corrections, and that we possibly are going through our 64th. What do you think about that?
True, it's true.
But they visited for a million.
But they visited for millions of years. Reptilians came here millions of years ago.
Now, reptilians you said came here millions of years ago?
Yeah.
And
they live underground, and they feel it's their planet.
Some people also mention that we humans are fighting in a proxy war, or even that World War II was a proxy war by different species of aliens, reptilians being on one side and I don't know what you'd call them being on the other side, but that's what it was. What do you think about that?
Well, like I say, I feel there's a good and bad everywhere. And when I was out in New Mexico, I felt a battle going on between the good and evil. Just overhead, and I felt like I was part of it. And when I went to the conference, there was a guy there, Arthur Fanning, quite well known. And he said that my light had attracted the negative ETs, and there was a battle over where I was at. The unselfish were protecting me, but the selfish ETs could see the light, and they were battling. And I felt the worst battling going on. I felt like I had gone through a war.
Hey, like you were hit by shrapnel.
Yeah, like I was hit by shrapnel. And he said that they had seen my light when I came out there.
Wow. You mean I'd seen it before? You talking about in the future, or
he sees light too.
And Arthur Fanning sees light too.
He's a famous author.
He's a famous author. He's got the crystal from Belize that's quite famous.
Here's a
From
question.
From the Atlantis. He's the caretaker of the crystal from Atlantis. And he allowed me to look through that crystal, and it was surrounded by grays looking back at me.
Here's a question from Lars Saturn. What are the aliens going to do when humans fully submerge with the machine? That's what it says, machine. When they merge with the machine, us.
Never going to happen.
All these fears of
artificial intelligence. All these fears
are just that.
Are just fears.
Never gonna happen.
It's never going to happen.
It's gonna have a happy ending.
It's going to have a happy ending. Light is stronger than dark.
And you mentioned you see cosmic light or bright light and
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of these beings when they are around you.
Wait, explain the last part of what you just said. I do see cosmic light.
That's
and
what
then
I was
what did you
mentioning. Was it, was it encompassing or being in veils over certain beings around you, or through you just around you in general?
Well, no, I see white lights around good people.
Very obvious.
I just see a lot of white lights around,
Interesting.
I feel it's dimensional. I feel it's positive. I see dark auras around people, and I don't go near them. They're very selfish people.
There's a question, another for you in the chat here. This is from Cosmic Gypsy. Will some of the dark ETs become light during the pole shift?
No, they're not working on it.
They're not working on it. They should be. They're just going to go to other planets and have to wait a long time.
They're going to have to earn their way to the
Everybody has to earn their way to the fourth dimension. Eat it whatever time it takes.
Now, this is another question about Planet X. It says, where is Planet X right now?
In between the Earth and the Sun. Off to the side. 4 o'clock position. So many people have got photos of it, but you can never look at the sun. We've got pictures of it, but you gotta just put your camera up. Don't look at the sun through your camera. Just put your camera up and click it. But even in Italy, they got so many fascinating pictures of Planet X.
Yeah, did you say where? Italy?
Yeah, Italy. There's this guy
all around the world.
but all around the world. But this is this guy in Italy that really gets some fabulous pictures. Every single day he's taking pictures. And he's got some of the best.
Let's see, what else do I have for here? Nancy Leader says it's behind the sun. Planet X neighbor?
No, it's not. Nancy Lita does not say it's behind the sun. She did not say that. Gordon and I are very good friends with Nancy, and Gordon speaks with her every day. And she never said that. It came into the solar system from behind the sun in 2003. It's in the orbit of Venus between the Earth and the sun at the 4 o'clock position off the side. Just off the rim as you look. But you don't look at it with your naked eye. I did that a little bit by mistake, and I'll tell you, I didn't do much of it, and it hurt my eyes. I couldn't hardly see for a while.
Because of the burning of the sun into your eye?
Oh, yeah, even if you look at it through your camera, it's going to burn your eyes out. Might burn the camera out, too. Just take a picture of the sun every day with your cell phone. And what you see is not normal.
What else can you tell us?
Anybody can do that. Everybody seems like has a cell phone. Anybody can put the picture up and snap it of the sun without looking at the sun.
That's true. And I would also think that they also have different range capabilities because our vision is only limited to a certain amount. So what about things that are outside the range that maybe the camera can pick up?
I've picked up things on my camera back in the days with films, and it comes back and there's a perfect saucer in the sky that I didn't see with the naked eye.
Very interesting. That's exactly what I was just mentioning and even beings. Now, here's another question I'm seeing in the chat for you. This is from Metalhead. Do you think any of these races are demonic?
No races are demonic.
Some are evil.
Some are evil. There's good and evil. But the evil right now are banned from coming to Earth. And the ones that are here now were told to turn to light and love or leave. That's what's working with us now. And the problem is some of them haven't left. If you want the selfish ones, you can call them in. I've been in groups of people we call in the unselfish, and we make a specific point that we want the unselfish, and we usually all end up seeing them within a week. And if the selfish come, say, go away, I do not want you here. Just tell them. And they have to leave because you have free will. Every soul is equal.
There's another question here from Cosmic Gypsy. Does Planet X phase in and out of this dimension?
No, it's a third dimensional planet. It's 29,000 miles from Earth. And gravity pushes and doesn't pull.
So Venus,
the Earth, and the dark what? Twin of Earth are stopped in their orbit, trying to go counterclockwise.
Yeah, and Planet X is trying to go clockwise.
And Planet X is trying to go clockwise. See, I have to listen to Gordon because, like I said, Gordon's the pro at this.
Here's another question for you from Lasha Senyak. Are the booming sounds people hear from the sky part of this pole shift?
Yep, that's the plates moving.
Yep, that's the plates moving in the Earth. Getting ready for pole shift.
Interesting, because some people actually report these booming sounds coming from the skies, or other sounds of people recording like trumpets coming from the skies.
Yeah, and that's That's not just trumpet sound. It's also eerie sound. And why are they coming from the skies, Gordon, if it's the plates moving the Earth? It's reflected off the atmosphere.
Interesting. Very interesting. I thought, when he mentions reflection of the atmosphere, I'm thinking of what they mined gold for the extraterrestrials to save their dying atmospheres from. They needed the gold, I guess, to prevent their respective suns from affecting their planets.
Well, that's because they go between two stars in 3,600 years. They need that gold. And it's cold out there in space.
This is from Alberto Kales. Are we in a prison planet?
No. This is a school. Earth school. You're to learn the difference between selfish and unselfish. The only way you can graduate is to become unselfish.
Rockstar Mensch says, I'm good friends with Nancy Leader. Do you talk with Zetas as well?
Yes. Yes.
You just answered this, but Metalhead is asking again, where do the booms come from? Sky and ground? Both?
Where do the booms come from?
They come from the ground.
They come from the ground. The sky reflects them. They're happening worldwide. Methane is being released.
From the Earth. Yeah, I've heard of that.
The Earth.
You also mentioned, Janet, that you could feel earthquakes, too.
Oh, yeah. I get a burning sensation in my feet that
You
won't,
feel the pizzoelectric.
and then I feel the piezoelectric of the.
We live on a quartz.
We live on a quartz stone.
top of the mountain.
The top of a mountain's all quartz.
Granite.
It's granite with quartz crystals.
Do you mean just where you live in Ellsworth, Maine, or are you talking about the whole planet?
The whole crust is granite.
The whole crust is granite,
But we live on top of.
but we live on top of a granite mountain. And we don't live in Ellsworth. We don't tell people where we're at, but where our post office box is Ellsworth.
This is a question from Pam Vrettenberg, my social media manager. What about the weather, it being from the pole shift? Tornado, it being warmer in winter and colder in the summer? What about the fault line?
Those two questions aren't really related, but the Earth is wobbling.
The Earth is wobbling from Planet X. It's wobbling.
Laying on its side.
It's
with the North Pole
laying
pointed
on
at
the
our equator.
side with the North Pole at its equator.
Pointed at our.
Pointed at our equator.
Now, Janet, you said you were also shown our future too, that we're going to graduate, or the positive beings, the ones that are following the golden rule, right?
Right.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, let's see now, like,
Be a better person.
you got to be a better person, but I've had the visions, clear visions of what's to happen, and I know what happens after death. I've experienced that. And it's basically you just become one with the one, with all there is. And at the end times, I go through it like I'm the witness to all these disasters, but I'm still standing. But in the end, I see it's a better place. Everything becomes better. I mean, we go to where we should be going. It will bloom. Everything will bloom.
Rebuilt differently.
Will be rebuilt differently without roads and cars.
Interesting. So, what would be our forms of transportation if we got no roads at the time?
Saucers.
Now, this might sound like a funny question, but it's actually not. If everybody on the civilization has a saucer or some sort of spaceship, wouldn't there be a problem of them crashing in the sky because there's so many?
No. There's so many out there. 9 out of 10 people are going to die with pole shift.
Wow. So,
And the only ones that will be left will be the unselfish. And everybody will get along. We all will be telepathic. Nobody can hide anything, like any secrets, or lying and deceit does not work in these coming days. It won't work in the 5th dimension. We'll be on the 5th dimension. 4th, I'm sorry. 4th.
this question's from Rockstar. How do you communicate with the Zetas?
Telepathically. Mind to mind. I think a thought and it comes back, or I get it. Gordon asks a question, he'll get an answer. They'll mostly deal with, I mostly get my conversation, telepathy, mostly in the dream state. Well, Gordon does it while he's awake, but they really let me know what's going on in the dream state. Just like the animals do. Animals will come to me in the dream state, tell me, like for instance, I keep bees, and the bees will tell me that they're getting ready to swarm, and they show me where they go and swarm, and I can go out and find them.
The swarms, you meant?
Yeah. Bees, the swarming, yeah. The bees speak with me, the animals speak with me, other animals speak with me. And I got familiars that are crows that hang around me all the time.
I'm seeing here in the chat, Lasha Senyak says bees are not from here. What do you say about from that statement?
Well, they are highly intelligent. If you ever could get, they've been here millions of years. And there's a book out there called The Shamanic Way of the Bee, and that is the most interesting book, and it just shows you bees are very advanced.
One Stoner Two Cats asks, what does she know about the aliens in New Mexico? Meaning you, of course, Janet.
Well, I've been out there. I told you I had there was a battle going on between the good and evil. There are some evil ones out there because of all the things that have gone on. The government facilities has some evil aliens there. And the cabal facilities. But I felt it when I went there. I felt it right away.
Now, did this feeling come to humans also, or was it just about ETs over New Mexico?
What does that mean? It comes to humans too. What do you mean?
Did you actually feel like you mentioned the cabal facilities, right? So did you mean some of these negative forces, these evil forces?
Underground stuff. Evil laboratories.
Participating in cloning, or what sort of project?
Everything, all that. Fixing it, mixing animals and humans and.
Third Phase of Moon's here in the chat, one of the world's largest UFO YouTube channel, the Cousins Brothers, who I have to thank for hosting me in Hawaii for a week, and they have a question for you. Can she make contact right now with ET, and they have a question for you?
We'll see.
Never know.
Okay, this is from Argentanza. What do you know about the coming event?
We were talking about them, but the coming events, first we're going to go through the pole shift, and it's going to be tremendous catastrophes to sweep the earth clean. It's for a fresh start. It's like a broom comes through, things get pushed and pulled around, and then it starts fresh again. The earth will be new again.
We're almost out of time, so I want to give you the floor, Janet. What else do you want people to know about you and the experiences you've had and what you told us about the future of us?
Well, I want people to be reassured that everything's okay. Eventually we'll all be back with the Creator. Stick to the positive. No matter what position you are in life, you can always realize that you have your own spark within you, that you've got the Creator within you, and you can tune into that at any time. Be here now. Live for the now, and just always go back to love and light. And you can't change a past, so make the most of what happened to you and make it good, and realize you are who you are because of your past. And I think people should talk about what they feel and what's going on, because sharing is what helps people without, to realize there's something better coming, and we don't have to be in despair no matter what's going on the earth. We don't have to be fearful, and we don't have to worry about the pole shift. I've seen enough of it now. I'm not worried about it. I've seen enough of what life is and what death is, and I've had enough contact with the other side, the fifth dimension, and we live very simply. We live without running hot and cold water. We burn with wood. We're very close to nature, very quiet. It's a beautiful world out there. It really is beautiful, but don't let it get you down. Just don't. It's easy to say than do. But you got to realize you've got something. Every one of us has something special within us that we can. The power of the Creator. You can materialize it for yourself. You can just go right back to yourself at any moment and materialize that. It's always there for you. Just tap right into it, and it's there right for you. So everything I speak about is to help people to realize what I learned over the years of going through tremendous difficulties on my spiritual path and trying to figure out what this life is all about. And that's what I came up with. I'll be 66 in July, and I'm trying to share what I know. And I wish somebody would have shared this with me when I was younger, so maybe I wouldn't have had to go through some of the ups and downs. But I guess this is the time, this is the time that I'm being able to teach it.
Well said. And
I want everybody to graduate. That's how I feel.
to graduate to the fourth dimension.
Yeah. The bus, I always say the bus is running. Who's going to get on it?
Well said. Well, thank you, everybody. This was Janet Louise Stanley, and of course her husband in the background who made the introduction, Gordon Gianni Noto. Did I say that correctly,
Exactly.
Janet? There we go. We got it correctly this time. And with that being said, please check out the website, drjradiolive.com, and of course, most importantly, the people on YouTube, DRJ Radio Live. Everything is the same. Dr. J Radio Live, from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Flickr, Tumblr, but YouTube is where it is at. With that being said, we are officially signing off.